and welcome to part 3, the last part of the confidence series. So today we're going to talk about how to create a relationship with your fear to become more confident. Now, what we are going to cover is ultimately our resistance to building confidence and how that it connects with fear and how we can start to create a relationship around that. So last part 2, if you go back and watch that, you'll see that I talk about stepping stones that will support you to come back to uh, stepping stones to support you to build confidence. And so where you are now and where you want to be, we spoke about how those stepping stones are really important and you can't bypass them in order to build true confidence. And so what can come up in this, though, is a process of resistance. So between each stepping stone, or between where you are now and where you want to be, we have resistance that comes up. And what resistance looks like is it's an opposing feeling and thought and behavior towards the very thing that we want. And if that feeling, thought, or behavior is overpowering the actual thing that we want, so we are more identified with the opposite of doing the very thing that we want, such as an example of this is I might want to get really healthy and go to the gym. So part of that would be that I need to get a gym membership, wake up twice a week earlier than usual, and start going. But the part of me I'm identified with that likes to sleep in, that feels unmotivated, overpowers the other part. So there's resistance to actually doing the thing that I want to do, that I know will benefit me, but the part of me overrides it, that sleeps in, that doesn't feel motivated, that doesn't have the energy to go. So I'm more identified with that part. What we want to do is create a relationship with the other part of, I really want this healthy lifestyle, but there's something keeping me from getting that, and creating a relationship with those parts so we can start to work with the resistance that comes up, rather than see it as self-sabotage or as we're lazy or calling ourselves names. It's around having compassion and acceptance for ourselves in those spaces to be more accepting of, okay, there's a reason why I'm finding this very difficult. What step do I need to take before this? Why am I finding this so difficult? What's happening in my life where maybe it's causing me to not be able to get up early in the morning? Am I going to bed late? Do I have lots of stress in my life? So this is the holistic approach that we can take. So we're going to work with the resistance, and what you can see it as on a symbolic level is, it's like I've got this idea, and let's say that you're kayaking in a boat, and you've got someone in the back, someone in the front, and the person in the front is paddling forward and the person in the back is paddling backwards. So you've got this resistance where there's this stuckness, and you're not moving very far because both people are paddling in the opposing directions. So there's this resistance to going in the direction that you truly want to go in, because there's a part that doesn't want to go in that direction. So let's talk about this in terms of, how does fear impact your confidence? Now, I talk about polyvagal theory a lot, and our nervous system. And now this plays a huge role in our ability to be confident. And the way it plays this role is that if we're dysregulated, so if we are in a fear response, our ability to feel confident reduces. So it's in sympathetic, fight or flight. This is when the body is mobilized, your anxiety, you get anxious, agitated, or overdrive. So many of you will know this feeling when you're hypervigilant, when you've got lots of energy, you're feeling unease, worried. And an example of this is public speaking. You feel your heart race, your hands sweat, your voice tremble. You rush your words or avoid opportunity altogether. So our flight response might come in, or when you're speaking, you might be talking really fast. That's generally the fight-flight response that comes in. So confidence drops when this can happen. You overthink everything. Your thoughts are fast and critical. Everyone's watching me. I'm going to mess up. Behavior, you avoid eye contact, talk too fast, or cancel plans altogether. So that's in the fight flight. If you're in that space, generally that will be how it can manifest. That's the example of how it can manifest, and how it's connected to our confidence. Now let's talk about it in terms of dorsal vagal. This is more of a shutdown response that our nervous system has. So this is a collapse response. You go numb, shut down, or feel hopeless. So an example here is you're asked to speak up in a group setting, at work, or in a class discussion. Suddenly you feel blank, your mind goes foggy, your energy drops, and your body feels frozen or heavy. This is how it impacts your thoughts. I have nothing valuable to say. I'll embarrass myself. You interrupt your shutdown you interpret your shutdown as proof that you don't belong or you aren't smart enough. You say, I'm just tired, stay silent, avoid eye contact, and beat yourself up later. Over time, your confidence erodes not because you're incapable, but because your nervous system doesn't feel safe enough to be seen or to contribute. Now, this is very common when it comes to blaming ourselves, or this can be really impactful for us when we feel this shutdown come in, and we can be very self-conscious because when we are in dorsal activation, which is a more of a shutdown, we blame ourselves. We feel shame in that space. When we're more in fight flight, which is what I explained before, we will blame out. We'll get agitated with the people out, and it will be more of a external response. So we'll go to the next one now. Confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to move through fear without losing yourself. So that ability comes from your nervous system capacity. And this is, I've spoken about the window of tolerance. This impacts our ability to withstand stress, and our nervous system to withstand stress is connected to our ability to feel confident as well. So what this means is if we've had any sort of trauma, especially social, relational trauma, our ability to feel confident in social settings, in promoting ourselves, in doing something different, starting a new sport, starting a new activity, is very much impacted by our nervous system's capacity to deal with stress and the stressful environments, people, and situations around us. So the window of tolerance, and this is something you can also Google, when we are outside of the window of tolerance, it can be very difficult for us to be present, grounded, confident, because our nervous system is in a fear response, and it's overriding our way of thinking logically. Our thinking brain is shutting down, and our primitive brain is turned on. And the primitive brain is all about survival and all about hypervigilance and feeling. So your window of tolerance is a range in which you can feel emotions like stress, fear, or uncertainty without becoming overwhelmed. So within, you will see the window I've got here, there's these little waves within the window. That's like a little bit of stress, and we can cope with that. And we can stay confident in that space. So whether that's public speaking, there might be a little bit, like your heart rate might increase a little bit, you might feel a little bit of tension, and then you find yourself, being able to still push through, kind of work through that, feel it, and still do the thing, public speak. Whereas if you come outside the window of tolerance, what you might find is up at the top, you may go into a panic attack. And then at the bottom, you may go into shutdown, where you completely forget and freeze and can't public speak because you cannot remember what you're going to say. So that is your nervous system going outside of the window of tolerance. So when inside the window of tolerance, you can think clearly, speak up, stay connected, and take action, even if you're nervous. When you exceed your window of tolerance, your system goes into survival mode. You might panic, overanalyze, overcompensate, or you might shut down, go blank, or freeze. So you can see there I've got the two different ones. So fight, flight is more of a panic, overanalyze, overcompensate, and the shutdown response, which is at the bottom of the window, is more of a dorsal vagal state, which means it's more of a numb, shutdown, freeze response. This is where confidence can collapse. So not because you're not capable, but because your system feels safe. It doesn't feel safe enough. And this is where people can sort of misunderstand confidence, because confidence isn't that you're not smart enough, you're not capable, you don't know the information enough, it's actually none of those things. Confidence is our ability to feel the fear that comes up, or to move forward with that fear, knowing we'll be okay even if we get judged or rejected or criticized. It's the ability to be able to express and speak our truth within the window of tolerance. And that means that it's more of a safety thing for us, because that means I feel like I'm in danger. But if I feel safe, I can think clearly. And this is important, because if you think about how you interact with your friends that you feel really safe with, you might speak clearly, you might have all these amazing ideas that you talk about, you may feel really inspired with them. There's people that you feel really good with and you can speak up and express yourself. But then you might find yourself in a situation where you don't really know people, where they're new, maybe you're doing some public speaking, you don't know the people in the room. And so that's where fear can come in, because there's so many unknowns. Then the thinking becomes a bit foggy. Then I can't bring in my creativity maybe, or my playfulness starts to fall away. So this is because our fear responses come in. It doesn't mean that I'm not creative, I'm not intelligent, I'm not playful. It means that my system has gone into a fear response, so I can't access those parts of me, which includes expression. So if I forget what I need to say, if I go into this state of I don't know, I feel stuck, you're pretty likely that's very likely that your fear responses come in and you're feeling unsafe. So that's really important to know. It's not about that you're not capable or intelligent, it's actually a fear response. So if you work with this fear response, you can then start to widen your window of tolerance, which means building confidence in those areas. That is how you build confidence. So feeling confident depends on your ability to stay present, grounded, and connected to yourself, especially when stakes feel high. You're asked to give feedback to a colleague. So these are examples. You feel fluttered with a flutter of anxiety, but you breathe, stay connected, and speak calmly. That's confidence inside your window. So even though that's a bit stressful, you can still track your process. You still have your observer on board, where you can observe yourself, breathe, and give feedback calmly. Another example is you're going on a first date and you feel awkward. Instead of shutting down, you name your nerves, stay present, and stay curious. That's regulated confidence with fear. And then another one is you're launching something creative and feel exposed. Your heart races, but you anchor your breath, take one aligned step forward anyway. Confidence through co-regulation. You can still feel fear and be confident. The key is staying within or gently expanding your window of tolerance. That's why it's important to have those stepping stones and gently doing it. So what happens when we exceed the window of tolerance? Our confidence can collapse. And that is because we can go into a fawn response. So say yes when we mean no. Fawn lives at the bottom of the nervous system ladder. So it's our dorsal shutdown. You may go into a spiral of self-doubt or perfectionism. So Here it says fight response, but perfectionism and self-doubt can also be in shutdown as well. It can vary. You might cancel, disappear, or dissociate, freeze, and shut down. It doesn't mean that you're broken or weak. It means your nervous system needs more support, not more shame. A lot of coaches and parents out there and all that can push their kids in a way through shame, and that is a bulldozing effect. So there's always a consequence to that. Whereas when we are in these fear responses, we really do need support that's nurturing and empathetic and encouraging to build our confidence. We kind of need we need the opposite to probably what we got when we were young, as a toughen up, just get back out there, get back on the horse. Like sometimes those things, our caregivers are trying to toughen us up, but what we actually need at first is the nurturing, and then we can have that kind of encouragement to step out of our comfort. But we definitely need to feel and process what's actually happening first before we encourage to push maybe a little further. And that's how we build self-trust. So how to widen your window and grow real confidence. So this is embodying real confidence. So practice nervous system regulation. So daily grounding, breath work, movement, somatic tools, many things that can ground you and give you a sense of calm and presence. Before hard conversations, take 2 minutes to feel your feet, breathe, orient your eyes to your space. See, these are things that are really simple but can have a real positive impact on your confidence. It's almost like if you name the thing happening inside of you, it loses its potency. It's sort of like, I'm feeling a bit unease and I'm feeling it in my body. It's like you're with that part of you, so it doesn't need to be really loud to be like, hey, I'm here, I'm feeling really unsafe right now. If you actually name it and go in, you'll notice yourself feeling a calmness because you're with yourself. You're actually naming what's happening within yourself. Expose yourself gently to titration. So this is another thing you can do where it's just little steps, which is what I spoke about last week, is those little steps to build confidence. Don't leap into the deep end. Take small, manageable risks and let your body learn that it's safe to feel fear and take action. Examples like practice saying what you want in low stakes in situations, a coffee order, a boundary with a friend. These are really good ways to start to build that self-confidence. And work with a safe other. So co-regulation, that's the work that I do, where your confidence grows faster when you're with someone that's regulated, holds space for your fear. If we are getting supported from people who are in fear or lack confidence themselves, that does not support us to grow in confidence. So it's really important to find someone that can support you to grow in confidence. It's also a scale. So depending on the fear that we have in our system for something specific. So let's say public speaking. I remember for me, it was terrifying. I felt terror. So I would go into a shutdown response. I would lose my train of thought. I would not be able to think clearly. I was not able to express, and I'd probably go into a freeze response. So in order for me to work on that, I went and saw a therapist and processed some trauma that I had gone through around that specific thing, because it was such it felt like such a big dysregulation that to do it on my own didn't feel as safe for me. So what I did is I did it with someone else. There will be other things, though, that maybe they just make you feel a little nervous. So on the scale, they're kind of more at the lower end of the scale. And that's when you can probably just do some journaling on it, or create a plan around, ordering that coffee at a coffee place where if they get it wrong, you go back and you say, hey, I actually ordered this, and you pick them up on it. It's like those little things. A boundary with a friend, it's more on the lower scale. So just thinking of it, like if it's something that's really holding you back and that brings on this fear of, like, you get shaky hands, maybe your jaw clenches, you get your stomach tightens, you feel like you feel like you've got to go to the toilet, all those things, that's quite a intense fear response. And that's where I'd probably seek external support around those sort of responses, especially if it's holding you back from working in your business or working for a company, an organization, or relationships, dating. So if it's holding you back from growing in your life, then that's where I would seek that extra support. So as I mentioned before, how therapy supports you to become more confident. So it recognizes your patterns or protective mechanisms as mechanisms, not permanent. So like what that means is it can be worked with. So patterns are not permanent. They are habits that we've sort of defaulted into, but we can definitely shift them. And they are our protectors coming in. So we also regulate your nervous system so you can stay present in challenging moments. And the way that I work with this is I support you to go through the fear, as well as things like role play and moments in therapy where you can practice in a safe environment. Reclaim your power by practicing new responses, not from fear, but from grounded self-trust. So that's, again, what I probably just said before. And therapy creates a safe space to practice this until confidence becomes not something you force, but something you embody.